So in today's video, we're going to be focusing on the FAL, the SKS, and the EBR. I've been getting a lot of requests recently saying what the heck happened to it, because in the recent patch notes, the 1.24, it said increase effective damage range of all semi-auto DMRs, semi-auto sniper rifles, and that pretty much covers those two weapons. In addition to that, like the Dragunov. But for today's video, we're primarily going to focus on the FAL, the SKS, and the EBR. And even prior to this update, a lot of times people were saying, hey, you should definitely check out the SKS, do a video on the EBR. They're completely disgusting, they're broken, they're not. So we're going to take a look at a few different things. Are they actually broken within Warzone? And if they are broken, why aren't more people using them? So if you enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor hitting that like button. Goal in today's video is 2,500 likes. And if you're brand new or just not currently subscribed, double check to make sure you hit that red subscribe button with notifications on if you're looking to find your way back to the channel. Let's go ahead and focus on one of the biggest aspects when it comes to this weapon, and this is the overall fire rate and recoil. So the first one we'll take a look at is the FAL, and the FAL has a fire rate of almost 500. It's right at that 485 mark. And what you'll notice is that when you do spam it, it has a recoil that kind of goes up and diagonally to the right. So if I spam that as fast as possible, you should be able to get the trigger cap pretty reasonably. It's about 8 taps per second. And then you're pretty much good to go. It kind of goes up and a little bit to the right because it has all these attachments. I end up working out pretty good. And you can see the visual recoil when it kicks. It does have a little bit of movement, but for the most part, it's very manageable and easy to control. Normally, this is going to be your close range option when we talk about close range options, because as you get a little bit further away, it becomes, even though it's very viable, it becomes a little bit trickier to hit those semi-auto shots on a target at range. Now we can do the exact same thing here, and we can hit targets at range, but there's a little bit of bumpiness moving. If you're trying to hit somebody at incredibly far ranges, you probably won't spam the trigger quite as much just because the visual recoil gets a little bit trickier. If I want to hit the target here, it's kind of bouncing around quite a bit and becomes a little bit trickier to manage. Not to say it's impossible, but for you to reach that max trigger cap and hit target, it's going to be a little bit trickier. But that ends up being how the FAL works, which we're going to get to damage and stuff like that. I just wanted to focus on how the recoil worked, and then overall the visual recoil and how it works differently with an optic. So now we're dealing with the EBR, which has a fire rate in the mid 200, so it's the slowest of the three weapons. And the iron sights, still fairly clean. I would still say these are about the same as the FAL if you're going to go iron sights. It does allow you to see the target pretty clearly. Kind of has a little line in there. And then let's go ahead and see kind of how these should be fairly easy to reach that trigger cap. So as we do it, because there's such a long delay between shots, overall the recoil is fairly manageable. But being able to hit a target at range, look at how far the recoil is going to look, especially once we throw an optic on this. Look at how much visually the gun, like this, visually the gun's shaking a ton. You can't even see the target when you fire the weapon. So now we have a VOK. We get a little bit more area. The gun's less likely to block what's going on. But let's see kind of how much this weapon kicks when we're shooting our target. It still has a lot of shake. Even though visually the shaking is happening, it's hard for your brain to separate that the bullets will go straight and you got to adjust for recoil, but the visual part of it's going to be very difficult and hard to land the shots consistently, especially if you're spamming at further range. The recoil will look like a bit more, but it's just kind of one of those trade-offs that you got to learn to work with. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the SKS. So the SKS has a slightly faster fire rate around 320 RPM. So significantly slower than the FAL, but a hair faster than what we just saw with the EBR. Now let's kind of look at its recoil pattern. You can see the iron sights right here. They do look fairly clean. There's not a lot of blocking going on, but if the target dips below your iron sights, it can be very tricky to see them. Like let's say if I'm right here and then the flinch, I won't be, the target's completely hidden. And that can happen with a lot of weapons. That's why an optic is typically a better way to go. Obviously on controller, we get a little bit of aim assist. So even if the person's right there, we'll get a little sense of where they're at. But keyboard and mouse, you just won't feel anything and know exactly where the people are. So let's kind of look to see how this one looks when we fire at the wall. And you can see it's significantly faster, the fire rate, and the bullets stay fairly close together. But again, we're going to have that visual recoil, which is going to make it significantly harder to see the target. And you can see how much is happening when I do this. There's a lot of dust up. The gun, the muzzle flash or whatever you want to call it, the gun actually moves, kicks back. There's a lot going on. even though if I'm shooting at the target, I'm able to land a majority of the shots without really moving much. It goes up slightly, but you can see pretty much all the bullets go to the same spot. Same issue that we saw with the EBR. It gets very difficult to separate what is going on because there's so much visual recoil that it looks like it's harder to hit those shots than maybe it would be normally. So when we're looking at this with an optic, what we'll end up seeing is we still get the same visual, like the whole screen smokes. Pretty much we can see where the target is, but the visual part of it is kicking pretty dramatically. And even though the bullets are fairly tight, as you get further away, that spread's going to be larger. And then the bigger issue that we're going to run into is, again, there's so much shake and blocking of your screen that to reach that trigger cap is a little bit difficult. Not because it's hard to spam the trigger, just because you're not able to actually see what's going on. It can be very tricky at a target that is moving at significant range. So now that we have that dialed in, now let's take a look at how the damage works for each of these individual weapons. So here's how the damage comparison works for these weapons within 20 meters. So from 0 to 20 meters, headshot is 105, 175, 175, and you can see the various body parts at that individual range. And the FAL is way more forgiving. Even if you're hitting them in the toe, it's going to still be 4 shots to kill, because 65 times 4 still puts you over that 250 mark. You're only getting the lower time to kill when you get the 2 chest shots and then a headshot. Now let's go ahead and look at the next damage range, which is between 20 to 45 meters. So 20 to 45 meters, these pretty much remain untouched. The EBR and the SKS, still pretty much the same, but you can see the damage has dropped off considerably for the FAL. Let's go ahead and look at the next damage range, which is 45 up to 55. So between 45 and 55, these guys still have the exact same damage value. So pretty much from 0 to 55, these pretty much have the exact same damage properties for those various ranges. When it gets to the FAL, it drops off again. And even at this range, you need 5 headshots to finish a player off. You need several body shots if you're trying to kill someone at range, which the TTK can still be decent. 866 time to kill, which would be on the slow end. But if you're reaching that trigger cap, you should still be pretty fine. But odds are you're going to get melted by a Kilo or Bruin. That doesn't need as much worrying about the spam. They could just make sure they hit every bullet with their very low recoil patterns. Now let's look to see what happens when you get beyond 55 meters, where these guys should have a damage drop off. So right here, we can see the FAL still performs the same beyond that 45 meters, so no change there. You can see these ones still have that headshot multiplier. So pretty much from 0 to infinity, it's always gonna be a 2-shot headshot for the EBR and the SKS. The big problem with this is they drop off to like a 5-shot kill if you're not hitting those headshots. You can see 54 and 49. You kind of got to get a combination of 5 shots there. If you only hit 49, that's going to be 6 shots. Body, if you're hitting limbs, it's even lower, you know, right around 6 shots. And you're getting pretty much a guaranteed 5-shot kill with the EBR to the body. Whereas with these ones, obviously it's a big issue, but this is where you get penalized by these slow rates of fire. If you're not hitting your shots, your TTK drops off significantly. With all these damage values, let's go ahead and put them into a graph and show exactly what's happening. So this is what's gonna happen when you hit only chest shots. You're gonna get a consistent time to kill. The EBR is very slow up here, and then we have the SKS, and this is because where the real power lies with those 2 weapons is getting that 175 damage headshot. If you're not getting it, you're basically, your time to kill is trash, and you're better off with almost any other weapon. And if you miss one of those bullets, if you don't get those back-to-back headshots, your time to kill drops even more, and it gets really bad. So right here on the left, the lower that number, the faster you're killing somebody because of the time to kill, the way it works. Now when we look at the FAL, if we just get those chest shots, it's going to be that consistent time to kill. Drops off around 20 meters without any of the various attachments. Then consistent all the way up to about 45 meters. And then at this point, you're probably using a long range option like a sniper rifle or another rifle that has low recoil, or you're using the Bruin or whatever. And you're going to have that damage drop off to 750, which is still amazing, but it gets a little bit less practical to hit all your shots at those various ranges. Obviously, let's go ahead and compare that. If you are a God tier player and you can consistently hit those 2 headshots, which I don't think most people can do that without some kind of cheating, to literally hit both headshots on a regular basis, it's probably gonna be like 1 out of 7 gunfights, and you're gonna feel like, damn, that melted them. But between the other 6 to 7 gunfights that you get into that you don't manage to get the headshots, you're gonna be like, damn, TTK is slow. So it's just something to keep in mind. I thought I'd show it just as a comparison's sake. If you're only landing headshots, you can see that these other two weapons start to outperform the FAL. Then there's a drop off with the FAL, but these ones, since they always have that 175 head damage, they're always going to deal the exact same time to kill, as long as you're reaching that trigger cap and you're hitting consecutive headshots. Now let's go ahead and look at a more balanced scenario where maybe you land one headshot and the rest are body shots. So pretty much how this would look with the FAL is body shot, headshot, or the SKS, body shot, headshot, or however the math's going to work out. And you'll kind of see this is more of what it looks like practical and most common within a game. Obviously, like I said, if you're a God tier player and you can only hit headshots because you're that good, this is the one that'll apply to you. But I think for the other 99% of players, this next one's going to make most sense. So pretty much how this works on this one, it's going to be one headshot and the rest are to the chest. And how this damage works for the SKS and the EBR based off its damage profiles, you need 2 chest shots and 1 headshot to acquire this time to kill. So it'll be 3 shots to kill, which gives the SKS a time to kill of around 375, and it gives the EBR a time to kill of around 450, which is incredibly fast. This is more of a practical time to kill. Obviously at range, it can be a little bit trickier to actually land those shots because of the visual recoil that we've already talked about. But if you can get good with it, get consistent at it, the time to kill is deadly. These guns perform very well. It's just very hard to actually hit those shots. So it requires a lot of skill or a lot of practice understanding how that visual recoil works. Then we get the FAL. If you're landing those body shots, you get a very consistent time to kill. And this is typically where you're seeing the FAL used because it melts. Obviously, you stack on more range attachments, you could stack this up to about 27, 30, almost 30 meters. But you can see it drops off. And then even if you're doing that similar method, it's still taking a good amount of shots. You'll still get 500 TTK, which is pretty fast. And that's why the FAL still is a monster. And then right above that range, you're probably better off using a fully automatic or a sniper rifle or something of that. So you can get consistent kills because it's very hard to spam the trigger, aim, and actually hit those shots beyond those ranges with the fire rate of the FAL. So there's a lot of variables going on there, but that's pretty much how that part works. So the next issue I want to talk about when it comes to these weapons and why you don't see these more often is because even if you wanted to use the EBR, the SKS, you're going to run into an issue with ammo because ideally you're going to want to spam this thing. Even with extended mags, it ends up using the same ammo as the snipers and the marksman rifles because it's in the marksman rifle category. And you're only going to end up with maybe 2 magazines at that point versus if you're using the FAL, even with 30 bullets, you're going to get over 200 bullets. So you get several magazines to spam that weapon and actually maximize it. So what we're looking at here is you can see I've gone into a game of Plunder. I have a sniper rifle as well as a regular rifle. And you can see the ammo issue here. You get 210 plus whatever the magazine size is. And then for the sniper rifles or the SKS and the EBR, you're going to get 40 shots, which really equates to 2 magazines or maybe 4 if you're only using 10 bullets. Then you got to worry about reloading or whatever. But that ends up being the biggest issue, in my opinion, because you're going to end up running into ammo situations unless you're just having your team drop your ammo for you or you're going to regularly carry ammo boxes. You're going to end up with issues. And this is one of the biggest issues, in my opinion. So I think there's 2 different solutions for this. One, you create its own separate category, which I think is a little bit less practical because we already have what's in the game, or just allow it to share the ammo with the ARs and the LMGs if they're that type of sniper rifle or marksman rifle that is that DMR or semi-auto that they've already kind of mentioned in the patch notes. So focus on those specific ones, and that'll allow that issue to resolve itself, where people might actually be open to using it instead of running out of ammo and thinking, oh man, I still got to end up using my other weapon anyways. So it's kind of a waste to have that secondary weapon. So personally, for my Warzone class setup, this is what I use for the FAL. I use a tactical suppressor because that helps with the ADS time. I know some people are completely getting rid of the suppressor because the gun melts so quick. What's it matter if someone's in your face if you're melting them? So that's definitely a trade-off because some people like the extra mobility, the faster aim down sight time. They'll drop that and maybe put on a tac suppressor. Or because it's so good at those closer ranges, maybe they don't want to take care of those 20 to 30 meters. They could drop the marksman barrel as well. But this is normally what I've been running with, having a lot of fun with. You could get rid of the 30 round mag and put on sleight of hand. I know that's another one just because that helps with mobility, overall ADS time. So you get a little bit of variety there, but primarily the way you want to use this weapon is for closer range engagements from 0 up to about 25, maybe 30 meters. And then everything beyond that, you're pretty much going to use a rifle for. Not that you couldn't use this and excel with this. But ideally, that's the strengths of where this weapon sits after the 1.23 patch that buffed its headshot damage in multiplayer and created an entire new damage bracket that made this thing broken, and it'll probably receive a nerf. So for the EBR, this is the basic class setup I would use. I don't normally run this class setup just because I don't think it's as good as the FAL, and I'd rather use a rifle or a sniper rifle for my long range engagements. But obviously there's gonna be people out there saying, hey, it's 2 shots to kill. I wanna melt some people. So this is going to be the class setup for you. Monolithic, the Forge Tac Precision, which gives you that extra bullet velocity, which is huge if you're trying to actually hit shots at range. And then you got the 3 times optic with the VLK, the FTAC comb, precision comb, and then the 20 round mag, so you don't have to reload quite as often. And that's pretty much the basic class setup I would use on the EBR. So when it comes to the SKS, pretty much the same thing as the EBR. Monolithic, longest barrel. I use a tac laser because as far as aim down sight speed, this one comes with a penalty of recoil. Even though the overall recoil wasn't bad, that visual recoil, I'm not going to contribute to that. So I pretty much have it set up with that, and then the VOK, and then the 10 round mag just has a super fast reload. It's like you're combining that with sleight of hand. If you want to go with no ammo there, you could go with maybe sleight of hand there, but this one is actually giving you a ton of benefits. Aim down sight speed, sprint to fire, movement speed, reload quick. So a ton of benefits to only get 10 bullets, but ends up being that trade-off. The reload speed isn't terrible with this, so you could definitely go this route or go to sleight of hand and keep the normal mag size. I know I covered a lot in today's video. If there's other comparisons you'd like me to do on the channel, let me know down in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, just make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.